So good evening, everyone. Hope the screen is visible and my voice is audible. Yes, right. Let me start from the place where we have stopped the other day. I have stopped at this point called social influence and persuasion. I am discussing how we have to get content from the previous year questions, and I am showing you how we can link a particular previous year question with the so-called the syllabus, right? And people are writing; those who are sending me writing, I can visualize, the difference between your first answers and the answers that you are writing now, right? Keep writing in the same way. I'll be correcting and I will be giving my comments similarly, right? Let me continue from point 4 today. Fourth point says that aptitude and foundational values for civil services, right? I said this when I was discussing the syllabus itself. Aptitude is the competency to solve a problem, and we have also seen one thing related to aptitude. Not one thing, two things we have seen from the questions itself, right? It is not just important to be uh, professionally competent, but ethics are also important, right? That is one thing. And the second thing is Warren Buffett's statement, which says that integrity is equally important along with aptitude. So you can use those two that we have seen yesterday in the aptitude. And I said foundational values of civil services, whenever they ask this question, you have to draw some hexagon or octagon and show that these are the foundational values of civil services. That is integrity, impartiality, non-partisanship, objectivity, objectivity, dedication to public service, empathy, tolerance, and compassion towards the weaker sections. Right? You just pick up these things and you will write. Along with this, you will be adding the so-called emotional intelligence, and then you will be adding, because emotional intelligence, I said, it is related to empathy, tolerance, compassion. Whenever you are writing emotional intelligence, think on these lines also. There is a question like how emotional intelligence is going to help an administrator. It is going to inculcate the values of empathy. You can write when you are emotionally stable, you can be tolerant to others' opinions. And then when you are emotionally intelligent, then you can understand the other sufferings, and then you can express the so-called compassion towards the weaker sections. So three terms comes from here itself, right? And then there is one more thing called probity and conscience, right? You have to add those two to this. There are also the foundational values of civil services. One is probity plus conscience plus emotional intelligence. So these are the foundational values. The only thing that we have to be well aware while this is responsibility, okay, there are many other things like responsibility. You can add many things, but what I am saying is accountability, responsibility, transparency. You can use all those things, but what I am saying is how to take up from the directly given context, that is from the syllabus itself. Once the point is, you can write the things, but make sure that you are not missing this. Okay, that is the thing. Don't miss these things which were directly given in the syllabus. And when you are reading this, you have to know the meanings, the basic meanings of integrity, impartiality, non-partisanship. What is the difference between impartiality and non-partisanship? Right? Objectivity, dedication to public service. Objectivity has something which is related to your emotional intelligence again, and then you will be studying two concepts here, that is called objectivity and subjectivity. And then it is linked with emotional intelligence. You should be emotionally intelligent to know how to solve a problem objectively, right? So these are the things. Let us look at the questions which Rukmini has framed. The first thing is foundational values of civil services. In this, she has classified this: impartiality and non-partisanship can be considered as foundational values in civil services, especially in the present day socio-political context, are considered as foundational values. You can use the same thing whenever they are asking something like impartiality or non-partisanship. You can use the same sentence and you can write they are considered as the foundational values in civil services. Rather, if they ask any question on this seven things, you can use the same thing. They are considered as foundational values in the present day socio-political context, right? Now see, look at the beauty now. Integrity, they have given 4 questions on integrity. Integrity without knowledge is weak and useless, but knowledge without integrity is dangerous and dreadful. Integrity without knowledge is weak and useless, but knowledge without integrity is dangerous and dreadful. It is similar to the yesterday's discussion, that is competency, professional competency and ethical responsibility, right? We have seen that question. Which one is this? We have seen one statement, right, yesterday. It is important to be ethical along with being professionally competent, right? And I have set Warren Buffett statement here. So the same thing you can use in integrity also. So more or less, it is the same question again. Integrity without knowledge is weak and useless, but knowledge without integrity is dangerous and dreadful, because it is should be a combination of both your professional competency as well as the ethical standard of living or the values that you are going to have. They are most important. So use, whenever you are writing something about integrity, you can start with the definition of integrity and you can use the same thing, or you can end a question which is being asked on integrity with this. Now, one of the tests of integrity is to complete refusal to be compromised. Now, if they ask what are the how integrity can be cultivated, or what are the advantages of having integrity, or what is the essence of integrity, you should write all these things, like it is complete rejection to be compromised. In any circumstance, we will not be compromising. That is called integrity. So this is one beautiful thing that you can think of, right? One of the tests of integrity. So whenever they ask a question, you can write again this one, and you can give some examples to people who are not compromising in their values, right? Like APJ Abdul Kalam, he never accepted the presentations or gifts. That is a complete refusal to be compromised. So you can say that this is integrity. You can give these type of examples whenever you are writing. And the next one is, in looking for people to hire, you look for 3 qualities: integrity, intelligence, and energy. And if they do not have the first, the other 2 will kill you. This is what I said, right, yesterday. The company maintains high standards in integrity and does not extend favors to civil administration. That also includes law enforcement agency. Now, this is a sentence which is taken from the case study, right? The company maintains high standards in integrity and does not extend favor to the civil administration. That also includes law enforcement agency. Just why this was given here, this is given just to know some way of writing. What is that? It maintains high standards of integrity. You can use these terms. One has to maintain high standards of integrity without extending favors even to any administration, including the law enforcement agency. This is just for writing. That's it. For your vocabulary, they have given here. It has nothing to carry on for answer writing as such, right? But the 3 things, you can use it in integrity along with the previous one that I discussed, professional competency along with ethics. Now, conflict of interest, this is a situation which arises. This is called ethical dilemmas in administration. And this is going to arise when you are unable to distinguish between your professional life and public life. Sorry, personal life. Professional or public life. Right? So whenever there is a question on professional life and personal life, how you are going to distinguish, right? How you are going to distinguish. Today I have seen 2 questions from your batch itself who has written about Max Weber's statements of bureaucratic morality as well as public morality. You can use these things like conflict of interest, right? This is an ethical dilemma, and ethical dilemma arises just because of this. Conflict of interest arises. See, How beautifully they have given. Conflict of interest arises in the public sector when official duties, public interest and private interest are taking priority over each another. So it is directly linked with the concept of the so-called ethics in ethics in personal life and professional life or public relations. Now, there is one thing called actual conflict of interest and potential conflict of interest. This we will see what does they mean when we are discussing conflict of interest as such. But again, this is for just for vocabulary. Whenever you are using, you can think about conflict of interest in this dimension. Public servants are likely to confront with issues of conflict interest. This is one ethical dilemma that you are going to face, right? They have given what is the present status or what are the problems of public servants. Public servants are likely to confront with the issues of conflict of interest, and then you can give that dimension, right? That is there in the syllabus. Problems and dilemmas. This is a conflict of interest is one dilemma, right? So whenever they are asking what is the present status or what is the problems in public administration as such for an administrator, then you can use conflict of interest as one dimension to think on. Now I said they have given this separately, but more or less it is also related to the above topic itself: emotional intelligence, concepts, their utilities, and application in administration and governance. Concepts and their utilities. Concepts you have to study separately. Their utilities, right? Utility means how emotional intelligence is going to play a positive role if you are using it efficiently, or if you are not understanding your emotions, how it is going to play a negative role in your personal or professional life. Next, application in administration. Utility means application again. Application in administration and governance. Now, I said whenever you are dealing with this concept, that is which is in blue mark, application in administration and governance, you can write it is going to enhance positive. If you are knowing about emotional intelligence, or if you are emotionally intelligent and if you are emotionally aware of your emotions and other emotions, then it helps in understanding or being empathetic, compassionate, as well as this one I said, as well as you can be objective in your approach. See, here there are four things. You can be empathetic, you can be compassionate towards weaker sections, you can be tolerant towards weaker sections, and the final one is you will be very objective in your decision making. These are the four things that comes directly for an administrator by being emotional intelligence. No need to think again, right? You write these four statements and then substantiate with some examples. Use some people who have been very good. Where you will get these examples? Again, in the moral thinkers, right? Public lives of great administrators. Here, reformers and administrators. From administrators, you will take few things and you will write examples. So in the administrators, if you are preparing some 10 to 12 names, you can utilize them here. But application in administration is the same thing. What you will write? Application in governance, administration, civil servants are the face of the government, right? Are the face of the governance. Hence, emotional intelligence is very important because they are going to help you, are going to add these four values at least: empathy, compassion towards weaker sections, and then it is going to make people to make objective decisions. Even in case studies, there are some case studies every year. They are asking one case study related to this, right? You have to understand which case study is that, and then you have to tackle this. For example, if there is a case study about vaccination, that is vaccine hesitancy, right? Then you have to be emotionally intelligent about how people are feeling, and then you have to devise some strategies to overcome that vaccination hesitancy by understanding their emotions. This is how you can give some substantiation. Now see this emotional intelligence. There will be some basic definition of emotional intelligence that we will be studying. Emotional intelligence basic definition, that is being aware of one's own emotions and the emotions of others, so that it will be very useful in the progress of one's own life. You can write in that way. However, look at this. Emotional intelligence is the ability to make your own emotions work for you against you. You have to use this whenever you are writing emotional intelligence. Whatever the question may be, you can use this. Pakka in emotional intelligence, right? And see, public administration, Max Weber says that it is not wise to apply public administration. This is something which is not related exactly to emotional intelligence. Rather, it is related to, this quotation is related to ethics in personal life and public life. I said one thing is conflict of interest. The second thing is Max Weber concept. Max Weber said that it is not wise to apply to public administration the sort of moral and ethical norms we apply to matters of personal conscience. It is important to realize that state bureaucracy might possess its own bureaucratic morality. He is saying that your ethics in personal life might be different from public life, right? And then whenever you are acting in the public or whenever you are a bureaucrat, you have to follow the morality of the bureaucracy rather than following personal morality. That he is asking, but however, you can take a different stand on this also. At times, it requires even personal morality also in administration. That is another thing. But the thing is, whenever you are writing about this, you have to mention about Weber, because he is the person who has given a new set of direction or a new set of thought to the administrators. That is ethics in administration. Just like Machiavelli, he has given something called a difference between personal ethics and professional ethics. This is the man who has given this, and hence you have to remember him whenever you are writing personal and public life. You can use this at the same time. Don't go with this statement, because this statement is not going to be always true. It has certain drawbacks also. So don't go with this, but think that yes, this is one dimension where you can write in personal and public life. Good governance and ethical governance, she has just mentioned it here, to write about the terms or vocabulary, to know the vocabulary. Whenever there is governance, you can use good governance or ethical governance. Look at this sixth point, contribution of moral thinkers and philosophers from India and the world. Now, what is important here is you have to directly remember, what is this, Kavya? 3. By mistake, sir. Okay, right. Contribution of moral thinkers and philosophers from India and the world. Now, what you have to remember is, you have to remember or by heart all these quotations, because these quotations, if you are studying, they will be like substantiations. That is one thing that I wanted to say. You have to by heart all these quotations, because they were directly asked in the previous year questions. And the second thing is, there is this thing called contribution of moral thinkers and philosophers, and you have a similar concept in topic 1, right? Lessons from the lives and teachings of great leaders, great reformers, administrators, and philosophers and moral thinkers. I said it is highly difficult to read about each and every person. I said a strategy like, you have to prepare one framework for ethical people, one framework for unethical people. At the same time, the story doesn't end there. You have to go and study about some other persons, like at least the persons whom UPSC has referred earlier. Like you should know something about Socrates, you should know about Gandhi. Gandhi is inescapable, right? Whenever you are preparing for UPSC, you should know something about Plato, Abdul Kalam. Yes, you should know about him. Napoleon Bonaparte. Even though if you don't know about Napoleon Bonaparte, use this. This is the best thing that you can use in ethics. Swami Vivekananda, yes, you might be knowing. Abraham Lincoln, Tirukkural, just only for this, but not that much important to know about him. Savitri Phule, very, very important. Aristotle, and then Warren Buffett only for the statement. Along with this, you can use some other persons in the administration side that we will discuss, but at least you should know about these persons. That is the first thing that I wanted to say. One thing is, and they have given teachings of Buddha, you should know the principles of Buddha or philosophy of Buddhism, that anyways you will be knowing in your history aspect. So the point here is two things. One is you should remember all the quotations that was given here because UPSC has picked up here. And in essay writing also I shared some quotations. I think Rukmini has also shared it, right? Just go through that quotations also. If you are by hearting all these 40 or 45 quotations, then you can use these type of quotations anywhere. So that will be a best asset for you. So just by heart these quotations. Now, Socrates said, yesterday I discussed one thing about Socrates. Socrates said that it is happiness, all human actions, the ultimate goal of all human actions is happiness. That I said yesterday. And now there is second statement here. An unexamined life is unworth living. Where you can use this, an unexamined life is unworth living. Anything where you can use this quotation. Any ideas? Any ideas? You can use this, say for example, you can use this in emotions or emotional awareness, right? You have to examine your life in emotional intelligence. The first thing is self-realization. If you want to realize yourself, then you have to examine your life. So you can use in emotional intelligence. That is the most important thing. So directly in emotional intelligence, you can come and you can use this statement, right? I hope how you can use this, because if you want to be emotionally intelligent, then the first point is you should be self-aware of your emotions. For that, you have to examine your feelings. Then otherwise, it is not going to be, you are not going to be emotionally intelligent, which means it is not worth living. See how in-depth emotional intelligence is connected to this. Now, a system of morality which is based on relative emotional values is a mere illusion, a thoroughly vulgar conception which has nothing sound in it and nothing true. What he is saying, a system of morality which is based on relative emotional values as a mere illusion. A system of morality which is based on relatively emotional values. What he is saying that I said in the dimensions of ethics, you have three concepts. One is consequentialism, non-consequentialism, virtue ethics. Virtue ethics says that, and in the determinants of ethics, I said space and time, right? Now, in the virtue ethics, it says that irrespective of the circumstance or irrespective of the relative goodness, you have to perform goodness. That is the thing. Because it is the virtue and it has to be performed. For example, education is a virtue. You should not study it because you are going to get marks or you are going to qualify. You have to study because that is a virtue, that is a good in itself. So you have to study that. So what he is saying, irrespective of the relative emotional value, how much this value contains compared to other value, you should not give that. If you are basing an ethical standard based on relative emotional value, then that system is going to be a false system. So which means more or less it is comparing to virtue ethics on one side, and the other side he is saying that there are some universal values which doesn't have anything to do with your space and time, but they are universal in their appearance. That is what this statement means. A system of morality which is based on relative emotional values as a mere illusion. So you should not do a thing good or bad based on relative emotional values. Rather, you have to do based on universal values. So whenever you are writing about determinants of ethics or dimensions of ethics, you can give this context. Hope you got this point. Repeat three dimensions. See, I said there are three dimensions in ethics, particularly the theories. One is the consequentialism. The second one is non-consequentialism, and the third one is virtue ethics. Irrespective of your consequences or not consequences, you have to be abide by the virtues, because a thing is going to be good or bad not because of the consequences or not because of the means. Rather, a thing is going to be good because it is a virtue. It is the virtue of the individual, or it is the virtue of that value which is going to define the goodness in it. For example, I said education. Education is a virtue because it is a good thing. Whether you are getting marks, whether you are not getting marks, you have to pursue education. The reason is it is a virtue product or virtue good. G-O-O-D, good, right? So whenever there are these things, you have to perform it, which means virtue ethics means more or less they are universal in their appearance. So what this man is saying is never never make a decision whether it is good or bad, depending on circumstance or depending upon some comparison in relative terms. Rather, do an action which is going to be always right because of its virtue. That is what Socrates is known for, right? Socrates is known for virtue ethics. Throughout his life, he has lived in this way. When you are studying Socrates, you'll be knowing it. Hope you got this point. Where you can use this, you can use in dimensions of ethics, or you can use in determinants of ethics. If someone is asking you whether to follow consequentialism or non-consequentialism, then it is always better to follow virtue ethics, saying that, and you can give the context of Socrates. Moving on. Aristotle, Plato, and Socrates. All are, see, actually, Socrates, Plato is the disciple of Socrates. After seeing the death of Socrates, Plato gives one more dimension of ethics. And over a period of time during his tenure, young Plato appears to be more or less similar to Socrates, but by the end of his life, Plato changes his own stand that we'll study differently. Aristotle, he was not that much virtue, rather Aristotle was a pragmatic man, unlike Plato and Socrates, who were ideals. Socrates is an ideal person or virtue person, whereas Plato is an ideal person. Aristotle is more or less realistic person. Socrates is the first person. Plato is Socrates is the teacher of Plato. Plato is the teacher of Aristotle. Plato looks at the death of his guru, and then he comes out with some philosophical angle, but that philosophy appears to be too idealistic over a period of time. Hence, by the end of his lifetime, he comes out with a different proposal. More or less, Aristotle observes his teacher Plato, and he gives some other conception about morality. So not everyone is virtue ethics. Particularly, virtue ethics is related to Socrates. Now, M.K. Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi. A man is but a product of his thoughts. See, guys, Mahatma Gandhi, like this man, Nelson Mandela said, right? If you want to survive, if the human beings want to survive on this earth, then Mahatma Gandhi is inescapable. If you want to survive in UPSC, then Mahatma Gandhi is inescapable, right? A man is but a product of his thoughts. What he thinks, he becomes. What he thinks, he becomes. Now the thing is, you have to use it in conscience. You can use it in attitude formation, because in attitude, you have one concept called attitude, the relationship between thinking and behavior, right? There you can use it directly. A man is a product of his thoughts, what he thinks he is going to become, right? This is the relation between thought and behavior, right? Then you can think thoughts are going to provoke the behavior. This is the relationship, and you can use this statement there in the attitude, or in conscience also you can give, like whatever you think or whatever your inner feeling says, you have to follow this. Gandhiji said this in the context of dharma, right? For Gandhiji, the ultimate goal of any individual is to uphold the dharma, and Gandhiji always believes this philosophy called every human being is endowed with a soul, and this soul always stands for dharma, right? The basic essence of Gandhiji's teachings is to uphold dharma, and he gives all these statements, right? A man is a product of his thoughts and what he thinks he becomes. So you can use this there and here, right? Attitude and the relationship between thoughts and behavior, you can use it. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. You can write it anywhere, right? The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others, because this is an ethical activity, right? Ethical activity. So these type of things you can use it anywhere whenever you are asked what about the essence of ethics. If the persons who are, one ethical term is service to others, right? Service is an ethical term, right? Whenever they are asking what are the essence of ethics, consequences of ethics, you can use these things. The best way to find yourself, because it is going to give you self solace, at the same time it is going to help the society. So there are two things. So you can use it in any way. Duty based ethics. Yes, Naveen, you're right. Duty based ethics, the best way to find. This is duty based ethics, and service, it is not just duty, right? It may be voluntary also, right? So irrespective of consequences, if you are giving service, then that is the best thing. So duty based ethics is something which is more related to the duty. Yes, you can use it there, but at the same time you can also use this statement saying that if the service is voluntary, then irrespective of the consequences, you will be performing that duty, then it will be giving you self solace, right? Ultimately, how it is related to Socrates, the best way to find yourself is, if you are finding yourself, then it is going to lead to happiness, right? This is how you can link the statement. So for example, if they ask this, the best way to find yourself, the ultimate goal of any human being is to be happy, hence he has to do some ethical values or ethical activities. Service is one of the ethical activity. One, if you are doing service to others, you'll find yourself, right? This is how you can think. And then you can use this in public administration also. That is governance, good governance, right? People should do any activity by thinking that it is going to benefit them also. Like servicing is finding best in ourselves. In good governance also you can use this. How to enhance governance, right? Moving to next one, anger and intolerance are the enemies of correct understanding. This is a beautiful concept that Gandhiji has given. If you have studied Gandhiji's concept of non-violence, right? Gandhiji's concept of dharma, Gandhiji's concept of non-violence, right? Then they have only one goal, anger and intolerance. Whenever you study Gandhi, you study about non-violence, right? That is peace. This has something related to Satya, that is Satyagraha. What Gandhiji says is, all problems in the world is because of people doesn't know what is the real truth. Hence, people should always strive to know what is truth. Then he calls it as Satyagraha. If Satyagraha, who is a Satyagrahi? A person who is searching for Satya, right? If you want to find the real Satya or the real truth, then what you have to do is, first thing, you should ensure that there should be tolerance among the people and there should be no anger. I should be open to discussion to you and you should be open to discussion to me. I have to be tolerant towards your opinion. You have to be tolerant towards my opinion. Only in that circumstance, you will have Satya evolving. Once Satya evolves, then Gandhiji says Dharma is going to be established on this land. So he gives this concept here. So what he says is, anger and intolerance are the enemies of correct understanding. You can use it interchangeably again. You can use it in emotions, because anger and intolerance are two emotions, right? And then these are not that much ethical terms. Anger, yes, sometimes it might be used for the benefit, right? Anger and intolerance are the enemies of correct understanding. Whenever they ask about emotional intelligence, if you are not emotionally intelligent about your anger, then anger is going to be an enemy of correct understanding, right? Then you can use intolerance. This is again one of the most dangerous thing, right? Whenever you are writing about consequences of ethics in human actions, if you are not ethical, if you are intolerant, then it is going to lose the correct understanding. Best example is the withdrawal of the farm acts, because there was no debate or discussion that has happened in the parliament. So you can give these type of examples and say that they are enemies of correct understanding. There was no space for tolerance to others' opinion. As a result, it led to the formation of laws. After 1 year, it was withdrawn. So you can write it. Gandhiji's, you can use it anywhere. That is the point. Next point is Gandhiji's concept of 7 sins. You have to study all the 7 sins because all those 7 things you can use interchangeably. I say, it is better to make your answer rich with Gandhiji whenever it is possible. Give the terms of Gandhiji. There is nothing wrong in giving that great person's advices. There is enough on this earth for everyone's needs, but not for everyone's greed. Environmental ethics, you can use it, right? There is enough for everyone. There is enough on this earth for everyone's needs, but not for everyone's greed. You can use directly this statement in environmental ethics. Can we use it some other way, some other place? Any other place where you can use this? Corruption, yes, absolutely. You have hit the bullseye. Yeah, that's correct. Corruption, right? Yes, you can use this in corruption directly also.